If you and some of the other guys can just hang in, you're going to see something that you've never seen before.
Let's hope he doesn't hit oil before you make the deal.
I'm going to have to leave this place.
You're risking everything you got.
I got something worth risking.
You knew! No! Enough! Enough!
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation, and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
Hello and welcome once again to GammaCast. I'm your host, Charlie Esser, and with me once again is the incomparable
Phil Parrish.
Hey Phil, so glad you could make it back one more time. Maybe even one or two more times after this. We do, I have to say that it is awesome doing this show with you for as many as I can get. But as I've said before, Phil cannot do this forever. Phil is a man in demand. So if you have ever been interested in the wild, woolly world of podcasting, just drop me a line at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. Or reach out to the El Supremo of our site, David White, at the 80s Reboot Overdrive, and let him know that, hey, you might want to do this. So anyway, Phil.
Yes.
This night's episode, Wildfire. Your initial thoughts, Phil?
I liked it. I liked it more than the previous episode. It seemed like there was more of a need for the Hulk. It had a good story. I don't know. I think I understand where the writers were going, but it seemed like David was quick to jump into bed with another woman after he just lost his second wife, 10 episodes ago?
Yeah, well, man, a man's got his needs. Let me, and for what it's worth, the whole point of the married episode is that, hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to reach for the strawberry because it's the sweetest strawberry there. Sweetest strawberry you'll ever taste. So the quick episode synopsis is, where'd the episode synopsis go? Wildfire, full casting crew. Let me just hop back one. Yes, there we go. As David Blakeman, Banner is trying to earn some money working on an oil rig. The owner's daughter takes a liking to him, but fierce competitors will do anything to sabotage their work. One of our cast members in tonight's episode, one of our very special guest stars, is Christine Brandford, who plays what's her name? Laura. Yeah, Christine Belford. Sorry, Christine Belford, who plays Linda Callahan. Fun fact about her: some eagle-eyed 80s viewers will recognize her as, I believe, Ricky's mom from good old Ricky Schroeder. Ricky Schroeder's mom from Jake and from Silver Spoon. So, that's cool. We have, there's a lot of great 80s stars in these things. The guy who played her dad, and actually, if you pull up John Anderson, if you pull up either John Anderson or Christine Belford's IMDb, you see that these are people, they have worked constantly. They're, because they're good, solid actors, and they get out there. And, I don't know if any of them have ever had major starring roles in a lot of things, but look, they were both on Silver Spoons. He played Captain Stark in The Great Computer Caper. Um, these actors get around, and one of the most fascinating things about the show, I do think, is this workmanlike quality of the productions. Now, what I think is, of course, once again, we get in this episode and I think in this episode we get really what I think is one of the the strongest arguments that there is something completely morally off with this world, because again, this is the have we tried killing him defense taken to its extreme, where our roughneck, who is secretly on the payroll of the other company, basically has no qualms about murdering, murdering David Blakeman and everybody else when he eventually gets around to blowing up the well. Now, see, for you, I find it interesting that the relationship seemed off to you. Like, to me, I don't know. To me, that was kind of a selling point for this episode for me. On one level, because I liked it when David does get out there. Mm-hmm. And for another thing, because this was the most overt statement of this. It had been implied that David was having relations while on the road, going from town to town. But this was the first time where it's like, yep, that does not make him turn into a Hulk, which is, a fun answer to have, because as we'll recall from the actual Marvel movie Hulks, they have expressly said the opposite, although it has never been tested. David makes that, Bruce makes that assumption in the movies, but who knows? That may not be the actual case. He is basically in that Clark Kent and Smallville with Lana Lang level in the movies. Here, David's he's more experimental. He says, you know what? Maybe, but maybe not. Let's find out. And I guess he learned after the Trucker episode that nope, this does not make me angry or outraged, as the thing goes. And it does make him seem like a bit of a cad, because of course right after that he does have that Hulk out episode, and then he's like, well, gotta go, and she's like, oh wow, okay, that was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. Because, of course, she doesn't want to say, oh, I turned into a Hulk, and that's why I have to go. Because he is always trying to stay ahead of Jack McGee, and he knows that once Hulk word gets out, it's going to be problematic. Now, of course, to his advantage, the guy he hulked out on isn't talking, because, of course, he's engaged in a criminal activity. And then, of course, we get the well. We cap the well. And it's a little disappointing that David doesn't get his money, because, of course, one of the things he wants this money for is and he is now a part owner of an oil well, which should be valuable to him. One of the things he wants his money for is to invest in a lab so that he can actually, find a cure. That's nice. But so getting back to the actual story. So, of course, as we said, the Wildcatter's daughter, who has a degree in languages, all of them apparently. Although we do know she speaks French from the end of the series, the end of the episode. Wildcatter's daughter has her degree in language. She wants to get a job as an interpreter. But she is obviously dealing with her own sense of inadequacy, because of course, as her dad says, she can leave at any time. I bought her a first class ticket back to New York, but she's worried that she's not going to be good enough. Which of course leads Bill Bixby to give her the statement, the reverse of how it's normally said, that she can make it here, meaning as a Wildcatter, she can make it anywhere. And I think that's basically saying you're tougher than New York. I know, I just left there. And again, like I said, David does have a affinity for pretty women, especially those who he can give a little bit of hobo guidance to before he has to get back on the road. And this I thought was a very nice one. Gives her the nice bottle of wine, tells her he'll see her in New York. I do wonder if we are ever going to reconnect with this character. We do sometimes get reconnected characters. We are going to see the Kung Fu Master in some later episodes. So one hopes that they are going to have more connectivity between the episodes in that. And I hope we do get to see her again as David gets to get her out of whatever bind she's in next. So basically what happens is as he leaves her Quonset hut after Kwanzaa hutting. That's our new euphemism for it, Kwanzaa hutting. He sees the guy who's the saboteur. The saboteur, with apparently Quicksilver-like speed and accuracy, knocks him out with one karate chop to the back of the neck. So this guy clearly has done this before. And, immediately puts Banner in an oil drum and drives off with him. I'm not quite sure what he was planning on doing with him in there. We do see Banner rocking the oil drum around and shouting, and this, of course, leads to the Hulk out. Although it did raise the immediate question, what would the guy have done if the barrel had just fallen off of the back of the truck? Because it wasn't secured anywhere. It just could have just fallen off, rolled away. The guy, Banner gets out and warns everybody about what this guy's doing, which he winds up doing anyway, because of course the Hulk breaks free, scares the bejeebus out of the guy, and then we get what I always like whenever we get a nice, small acting scene with Lou Ferrigno. They do not let Lou Ferrigno act much, but this is a nice one where he gets to be the Hulk exploring the radio. Mm-hmm. And I really liked that. I really liked his fascination with it, his attraction to the different voices and, things like that. And then, of course, he does tear it out and throw it away and run off, as Lou Ferrigno does in these things. But it's always nice when he gets a moment to show a little bit of emotion, because they don't let him do that. And I do think that Lou Ferrigno is actually a pretty good silent actor. Mm-hmm. I think he's very good at, with his eyes to conveying emotions, curiosity, compassion. And I always like when they have a nice quiet Hulk scene, because it does give us this nice differentiation in how we think of the Hulk and what the Hulk actually is. It is easy to think of the Hulk as just the creature of rage, but really he is actually a full being. His mind is clouded, but he's not by his nature just rage, even though that is what we think of the Hulk as, is just rage. He actually does have the quiet moments, does like to pet the bunny, and it's important to always think of the Hulk as much a defense mechanism for Banner as it is a mode of aggression. And I thought we got a nice moment of that in this too. So that was lovely. Of course, our bad guy does come back. So basically, after Mike Callahan's well does come in, the primary bad guy, who is a former wildcatter. He's the guy who works with Wilcott Oil and tries to get wildcatters to sell their lease rights to them before they strike, so that Wilcott Oil can get all the money. He basically says, look, he struck oil. This case is closed. We lost this one. And the other guy says, no, I'm going to do it, because he wants to get the other guy's job. And he thinks, well, if I just murdered more people, then I'll get that big promotion I want. So he blows up the well, which injures a lot of people, which is gives us another good scene where we get to see David use his doctoring skills. They do put in a lot of first aid bits, and this was a really great in-story good reason for him to have to do all this first aid, to do triage, and basically be a frontline medic, because of course he is one of the most noted doctors in this world, though nobody knows it. With a little bit of shades of The Fugitive there, where every so often the fugitive would have to bust out his mad doctoring skills too, so that is, of course, I think that was very much the inspiration in many ways for this series beyond just the idea of making a Hulk series. So that's good. So we get to do that. Anybody who can still stand is working clearing the debris so they can blow the well. And then, of course, and why this didn't kill everybody, I'm not 100% certain. But of course, what happens is Jack Elder I believe his name is Frank Elder. I believe that's who was the bad guy. Comes back and he is going to basically, blow up. Before they can blow up the well, he's going to blow up everybody else. And
Frank
Sorry?
Adler. Frank Adler.
Yeah, Frank Adler is the name of the character. Went on to play Captain Smith, SWAT Captain Smith on The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. He's also a Marine sergeant on Trial of a Traitor in the Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Anyway, so he's actually played people who weren't evil, maybe. So he goes and he basically, because they put David in charge of pushing the plunger to blow it up after they give him the signal. Before he gives them the signal, he blows it up. Now, why that didn't blow everyone up, I'm not quite sure. But everyone's injured, but they do manage to get out. Adler, throws Banner against the wall, and then that crazy green monster shows up again. No one ever puts two and two together. Although, as I've said, I do understand why that is, because in the moment, in a non-magical world, you see the monster. You're not going to think, oh wait, was that other guy actually the monster? Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So the Hulk comes back, throws the guy through a shed, and then he, actually, I'm not sure if he waits there, if he runs, and then they catch him later. But we'll get to that later. And then the Hulk goes. He pulls Mike Callahan out of the fire, brings him back, and then does what is an awesome Hulk moment, because the crane to put the cap on isn't working. He reaches, he pulls the crane off of its foundations, and basically holding it, puts the cap in the wall. So it's a great feat of strength for the Hulk, which is always something we like to see. It was a little bit awkwardly shot, but I forgave it. I was rewatching again last night, and you kind of you can sort of see Lou Ferrigno kind of struggling with it. It's like, guys, make sure those wires are there. I really am not the Hulk. But he does cap the well, and the day is saved. And then the Hulk runs off. And what I liked about this is that again we get this nice moment with Lou Ferrigno here, where he is. We see him seeing things, recognizing things, and knowing what it is Banner needed to get done. That, he does remember that there are things that we're in the middle of. Yeah, and there are things my strength can use to help. And he does that there. And so this is a great use of the Hulk, I felt.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I'm guess so. So what they're kind of saying is Banner has even just a subconscious influence over the Hulk.
Well, yeah. Well, and the truth is, and they have said this earlier in the show, and I think in the very first episode, where his other lady, because David, man, he's got the ladies for days. To him, the Hulk is not something different from you. He says, in this case, it's the Hulk can't kill because Bruce Banner can't kill, but it is the same idea that these things. Yeah, I know you're afraid of them, but it's still you in there. It's still you in control. And, there's a great counter argument to that in, of course, the current Totally Awesome Hulk, the comic book. For those who aren't reading that, you might want to pick it up. It is totally awesome. Says so right on the cover. Where Amadeus Cho basically says, but what if, he's worried about that. And I think his sister says, well, you're only going to beat up bad people. You're only going to beat up the people that need to. And he says, yeah, but what if me and the Hulk have a disagreement about who needs to get beat up? It's a legitimate concern, one that Banner has, but so far, based on history, the Hulk has done more good than harm, I think, so it is a fascinating question. Do you have any other thoughts on this episode?
Well, we really didn't mention him. The character of Ray.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, the guy who's kind of working for the evil corporation, but then he comes around at the end.
Yes.
I've been jumping back and forth between episodes because my son recently discovered it, but he's in a later episode. I forget, it's either a season 4 or 5 episode.
Oh. Does he play someone new?
Yeah, I don't know if you
Yep.
remember
he
the episode, the first. Yeah, he plays like the sheriff of the town.
Yeah, Sheriff Carl Decker. Oh, that's when we actually get into the 80s in the 4th season. Yes, you know, technically we're a 80s podcast, but you know the Hulk actually starts in the late 70s. So, so cool, you know. And you know, now that I think about it, let's see if Christine Belford ever comes back to the Incredible Hulk. I'm thinking no, because I checked earlier and I didn't see her. Let's see here. Incredible Hulk. Oh, she was on The Greatest American Hero in 3 different roles. Sheila Redmond, The Spirit, and Dottie Parker. I'm guessing that's Beast in Black. I'm guessing she was both Sheila Redmond and The Spirit as a dual identity in that.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that one, yeah.
Greatest American Hero, but yes, she actually does come back again in 1981 in another episode called The Wax Museum. She plays a character named Lee Gamble, and kind of neat that you know the 2 characters come back again in separate episodes as new, or the 2 actors come back in the same season as different people. So yeah, and. But yeah, and what I had said was it makes me wonder if in the Wax Museum if David and Ms. Gamble wind up together, and if when they wind up together, David makes a comment, you know, you remind me so much of someone I once knew. Anyway, moving right along. So yeah, so the other Wildcatter, or the former Wildcatter, who you know sells out to the man, because this is the late 70s, and you know selling out to the man is a thing you've got to worry about, because of course the man is evil. The man is condoning murdering people as a way to get the promotion. You know, it's almost, you remember the first Mirror episode of Star Trek, you know, where it's like the way you move up in the ranks is you assassinate your captain. I think this universe eventually became that universe. I think that you can follow that line of thought, like, oh yes, well in the 1970s we started this project where if you murdered enough people you would raise in corporate America's ranks, and that of course led to all sorts of craziness, and now that's how we run our starships.
Yeah, but I mean writing wise, that's more exciting than "we'll see you in court."
Well, exactly, yes. You know, although it would have been a great time for them to introduce Jen Walters, although she wasn't actually a character yet, because Jen Walters doesn't come into it until Benny Hill does that gag, which was after the Incredible Hulk TV series was established. And we've all seen the Benny Hill She-Hulk gag, right? No?
I don't think I have.
Oh, you got to look that up. Type into YouTube Benny Hill She-Hulk, and that's actually the inspiration and origin of She-Hulk. Was Benny Hill did a gag about the She-Hulk, or about basically this woman doing a Lou Ferrigno hulking out when he pinches her tuchus, and you know, because don't do that, man. And she turns into the Hulk, and you know, basically deals with him. And someone saw that and says, "Oh man, we can't let that intellectual property be out there." So they created a She-Hulk right after that, and that's why we have a She-Hulk. Yay! Who would have been in the third movie, Death of the Incredible Hulk, but they decided not to write it. They decided they didn't want to do an ongoing Hulk series after that, because that was going to be the backdoor pilot. After that, was you were going to have this actress being the She-Hulk, and it even did. And I'm trying to remember her name. She was in Conan the Barbarian. She dated. She was the blonde lady, the blonde doctor in Rocky 3. What's her name? She was on The Surreal Life. Dated Flavor Flav.
Is it Nicolette?
I'm blanking on anyway. But she was supposed. She did screen tests to be the what's the word I'm looking for? To be the She-Hulk. But you can find those. Actually, it's Rocky 4. You can find that. You can find stuff on that online as well. So it's there is a grand and storied 80s history of the Incredible Hulk, which is why, even though it starts in the 70s, it is on the 80s. Bridget Nielsen, that was who it was. Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah.
And she did look great as the She-Hulk. So it's just sad they never did it, because it would have been neat to see. I mean, I think the She-Hulk is in many ways a more fascinating character, and to actually have her Jen Walters identity, being a lawyer, and then being the She-Hulk, and how she balances those things without actually going on the run. That might have been a really great story, but sadly, 'twas not to be. Okay, let's get some final thoughts on this week's episodes, Phil. Oh, you know what? Dang it, we for that you went on that other character. Yes.
Wait, which character?
The character, the former Wildcatter who sold out to the man.
Oh, I guess it's believable. And this way David can leave without feeling too bad, I guess. But I don't know. It's. I just wonder what they. I don't know. It's just a little weird for me.
Oh, that he sort of had that change of heart and came back. Well, I think when he realizes exactly how evil the people he's working for are, that they are going to just condone this man's,
murder.
Murdering people. That's like, maybe less so. Maybe that's not where I want to be. And quite frankly, as he said, in his heart, this is something he believes in. This is something that he left it because he didn't want to be an old wildcatter, but at the same time, he understands that selling out to the man is not good too, because hey, people have these rights to make their own business, I guess. So yeah, it's a little convenient, but I think the fact that this was a friend of his from way back, and that's one of the things that sort of feeds into it too. That he has this friend, he's trying, and he winds up being forced to try to ruin him, and he doesn't want to ruin his friend. He's his friend, and so I can see this. I can see the character arc in standard TV storytelling of the day. But yeah, it is terribly convenient. But so is having a Hulk join your rigging crew when the bad guys try to sabotage you. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that is terribly convenient. But so is just having a Hulk show up. Deus Ex Machina. Ask for it by name. Okay, so that's enough Hulk for this week. Thank you, everyone, for gamma casting once along with us. Phil, where can they find you if they want to hear your thoughts on many wise and wonderful things, or just talk to you about the things they like to talk about, like the Incredible Hulk TV show or other televisions of the 70s and 80s and beyond?
You can hear me on many podcasts on the Southgate Media Group. Well, if you like this conversation, check out the all-new Marvel Roundup and Super Connectivity, all part of the Nuff Said podcast, where I podcast with Mr. Charlie Esser. But if you just want to discuss any Marvel or DC with me, you can always get a hold of me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp.
And don't forget Before the Bat on the Southgate Media Network, where he talks about that new TV show about superheroes. Except more about supervillains than superheroes. Beautiful. Okay, moving right along. And if you'd like to write to me, always do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivity, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, tweet at me Saturday nights at 7 as I watch 7 Eastern as I watch The Incredible Hulk Saturdays on MeTV at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. for quality. And of course, if everything goes as to plan, this podcast will air just before this episode airs on MeTV, so we got it all synced up in time. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, thank you, Phil, once again. Love having you.
Thanks for having me.
And for all of you listening, thanks for hulking out with us. Have a great night.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.